So basically, in the 20th century, because of these third ideologies, Nazism, fascism, communism, racism, anarchism, terrorism, which are all founded upon Darwinism, the theory of evolution, more than 180 million people were killed. That's the reason why Darwinism is so important. That's the reason why Harari Yahya gives so much importance to the scientific refutation of the theory of evolution. Now, before beginning my speech about life, I have to mention first the possible explanations of how life emerged. There are two possible explanations. The first one is the theory of evolution, which claims that all the living beings are products of coincidences, which denies the existence of a creator. And the second explanation is the creation. There is no other third explanation, an alternative explanation, and this is also accepted by the leading evolutionists today. Douglas Futuyma is one of the leading evolutionists. He is from State University of New York. Futuyma says, organisms either appeared on the earth fully developed or they did not. If they did not, they must have developed from pre-existing species by some process of modification. If they did appear in a fully developed state, they must indeed have been created by some omnipotent intelligence. So if you pay attention to this underlying part, Futuyma says, if you look at the life on earth, if you see the living beings emerge all of a sudden, then we have to accept that they are being created. If they appear in a fully formed, with perfect and complex forms, then we have to admit that they are being created. So if we invalidate the theory of evolution, the only alternative explanation will be left is the creation. However, before, evolutionists have to answer some questions. The first one is, how did life originate on Earth? The second question is, what are the mechanisms of evolution? And the third question is, there must be a vast amount of fossil evidence of evolution. Are there any such fossils? Now, we will evaluate these questions one by one. The first question, how did the first living cell form? Well, evolution theory doesn't have an explanation of the first living being, the first cell, so-called the first cell. You see a modern city over here. Take the metropolitan cities such as New York, Paris, London, Los Angeles. Of course, a city like this has high-tech factories. It has power stations. It has security systems. It has pipelines, highways. It has gates to enter and exit the city. If we check with the electron microscope, one single cell, as you know, living beings are made up little tiny cells. For example, in an average human body, there are like more than 100 trillion cells. Some of them are so small, about like 1,000th of a millimeter in size. So if you check a cell which is 1,000 millimeter in size with the electron microscope, we come across a much, much more complex structure than the largest, most modern city in the world. Because a cell like this, it has huge data bank, our genetic information. It has highways, it has pipelines, it has nuclear power stations, which are technologically more advanced than the most advanced nuclear power station in the world. It has security systems. It has a seemingly conscious membrane which controls what enters and exits the cell. So basically, a structure which is 1,000 millimeter in size, which is much, much more complex than the largest city in the world, there is no way this structure could be a product of coincidences. It proves the fact of creation. Creation by an omnipotent intelligence. You see a computer over here. This is one of the best computers in the world. It is called Cray X1 computer. This is the best human technology can get. Of course, a computer like this has the largest capacity. However, if you check one single DNA molecule, which is 100,000th of a millimeter in size, has much, much larger capacity than the largest computer in the world. And I tell you why. Because a molecule just like this over here, which is 100,000th of a millimeter in size, has been shown by the Human Genome Project, which is the largest project of the entire human history, the largest scientific project of the entire human history. It has an information equal to 1 million pages. So basically, this is an unimaginably high amount of information packed in 100,000 millimeter size molecule. Now, the second example, my second example is even more interesting. A scientist whose name is Len Adelman from University of Southern California. This scientist has shown that the amount of information in 1 gram DNA molecule, 1 gram, that much, that was published in Nature and Discover magazines, is equal, this 1 gram information in 1 gram molecule is equal to 100 trillion, 200 trillion books. It is equal to 1 trillion CDs, and it's equal about to 200 trillion books. So basically, this amount of information, the number of the books, are more than the number of the books written in the entire human history. So there is no way this molecule with this huge amount of information could be a product of coincidences. It is a very good evidence of a creation by an omnipotent intelligence, exalted wisdom, and unmatched artistry of Allah. Now, there are some specific molecules in the living beings. Living beings are made up some molecules. They are called protein molecules. Basically, these protein molecules, they have a very specific design and function. For example, they make up our muscles. They function as hormones and enzymes. Enzymes means robot molecules in our bodies. There are estimated 200,000 different protein molecules just in human beings. And there are like more than that. There are estimated billions and billions of protein molecules in the millions and millions of species. Basically, the mathematicians and the statisticians, they picked up a moderate-sized protein molecule with 500 amino acids. As you know, as I told you, there are like 200,000 different protein molecules in human bodies, just human bodies, and billions of protein molecules in the millions of species. So they picked up a moderate-sized protein molecule with only 500 amino acids. There are larger protein molecules than that. There are smaller protein molecules. And they calculated the odds of this moderate-sized protein molecule to come into being by coincidences. Now, I will explain you how this calculation is made. There are 3 musts of the protein molecules. These are 3 basic conditions for the formation of a useful protein. The first one is that all the amino acids in the protein chain are of the right type and in right sequence. There are like 20 different amino acids. And that all the amino acids in the chain are left-handed. This is my left and right hands. There are mirror symmetry between amino acids. My left hand and right hand. And only for some unknown reason, which is not known by the science today, only left-handed amino acids are used in the living proteins of the living beings. And the third one is that all these amino acids are united between them by forming a chemical bond called peptide bond.